everybody. Welcome. Good to see you.
Welcome, folks. I think just about everybody here has been to a Just an Hour before. As you know, these are run collaboratively by our associate deans. Everybody else is doing conferences or something now. So I'm here to represent the associate dean part of the group. But as you know, these are opportunities for us to talk about interesting ideas, work that faculty and doctoral students are doing, and otherwise generate some interesting conversation during these 1 hour sessions. I don't want to take too much of time, but I'll just say I'm delighted that Kathleen is here. I think many of you have heard of or met Kathleen. Kathleen King Thorius. She's currently the director of the college's Learning Futures Collaboratives, which we initiated a few years ago. They're networks of faculty, students, community members that have organized to address big issues in education through a variety of mechanisms: courses, research, practical interventions, collaborations with communities. So I'm delighted again to have Kathleen offered to facilitate this session. She'll hopefully provide a bit of an update on the LFCs and their work. And we're also joined by Adnan Turan, who's a current doctoral student in the college. She's a member of a Learning Futures collaborative that focuses on refugee and immigrant education. And I'm really excited about what he's going to be sharing. He's been developing a game-based approach to learning and generating ideas for supporting refugee and immigrant education. And they have a great title, Games as Research and Practice. I'm really looking forward to hearing their ideas about that. So with that, just one note, we are recording these so that we can post them on My Education Hub. We often get folks who can't attend but want to listen to the discussions later on. So it will be recorded and posted. Want to encourage everyone, as ideas or things come up, to feel free to post in the chat or presumably to jump in. We have a relatively small group, so we can probably do some oral jumping in and questions too. But with that, Kathleen, why don't I turn it over to you?
Great. Thank you so much, Betty. Good to see everybody. I'm just going to orient you to where we are. So Adnan and I are sitting in my office in Farmer. And we thought we would try to come together on this end so we have the opportunity to interact in the same space at the same time around this game. And then you'll also have the opportunity to interact with elements of the game. Betty, thanks so much for the invitation. I'm really excited to be able to have this conversation with you all and with Adnan today. As I know all of you agree, our doctoral students are phenomenal assets to our work here in the college and bring so many really important perspectives and connections for how we can engage together in solving issues and also acknowledging the assets of communities, both that are and are not included in traditional scholarly activity, but also to expand what counts as knowledge generation and scholarly activity. And so just to build very briefly on what Betty shared about the Learning Futures Collaboratives, one of the things that I've been extremely impressed about is the depth and breadth of the networks that each of the Learning Futures Collaboratives have built and are seeking to build around particular educational issues. And so across this work, one of the things that we are aiming to do is really question and expand the notion of scholarly activity for lots of reasons. But one of those reasons is so that folks have the opportunity to engage in, generate knowledge within the processes of, and benefit from what it is we do in the academy. And we know we could sit and talk about that for a whole just an hour and more, how that's not necessarily happened for many reasons in the past. So I'm really excited about that. The other aspect that I want to highlight today is the importance of scholarly activity being engaged with, by, and for multiple publics. And so as a public research institution, with the resources we have, human and otherwise, it is our responsibility to make sure that what we're doing is accessible in the widest definition of that word, accessible in terms of the media, accessible in terms of the language, accessible in terms of the relevance, and accessible in terms of the timeliness of what we're engaging. And so I'm thrilled to have Adnan here with me today, doctoral candidate here in our college, to talk about their work developing the learning and educating across refugee and immigrant networks, or LEARN, one of now 9 Learning Futures collaboratives in the college. And so as we transition to that, I am going to share my screen with credit to Adnan for putting together a presentation for us today. And I'm going to just, if you'll give me just a minute or so to expand your window on my screen. We're working from multiple monitors, and turn it to Adnan to introduce the Learning Futures collaborative, and also, as Adnan is sharing, for you to think about what Learning Futures Collaborative you may want to be a part of if you're not already. The sky's the limit. But so as we start, you're going to talk about, Adnan, you're going to talk about what LEARN is, but also I'd love to learn about how you developed the idea for the LFC.
Okay, thank you very much. This is Adnan, PhD candidate at Education Policies and Evaluation Program. Thank you, Betty and Kathleen, for inviting me. So the first thing, so it's clear that like Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, has a potential to work with the global, like the shareholders on refugee education, and we have like a lot of great scholars here who work with refugees. But we need like a group who focus only on like these issues. Before that, we were talking about like having like a big like center, like a refugee education center, or like something bigger. But then, like we heard from the GIL, like Learning Future Collaborative like opportunity, and then we just decide to start with as a group who work with refugees, and we didn't want to like limit ourselves with only like a team, Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College scholars. We had and still we have some colleagues all around the world, and we have some other institutions do we collaborate with the different projects. So the first idea was about like the first thing we think about is like for the project. So the first thing is to identify the key areas. So like for the research on the education of like refugees, then like develop initial and inclusive collectives to conduct research and use findings to build like a necessary support for the refugees and immigrants group in Arizona or in the United States and globally. So our idea is like bring all people like who work with refugees, like learners, educators, practitioners, and like academic institutions, nonprofit organizations, team taking organizations, do like something. So far, we have done 7 webinars. It was in our like first year. We brought like at least 300 people all around the world to talk about refugee education and refugee/immigrant education. And it is included like from the Lebanon to like the Ghana or like different part of the world, like United States, like South America, people who are in the field, people from the refugee camps, or like from the NGOs. These are the big and diverse group. And also we created like a list of sources for people who want to learn about like refugee education. So it's now on our website, and it's the first thing that we did the first year. In the second year, we developed a course with our collaboratives for Modern University, for business and science in Lebanon. And our first idea was offering the course for spring 2025, but some of our the colleagues from the Lebanon experienced the displacement after the recent conflicts. So we don't know what's going to happen. So are you going to offer class for the next semester or not? So yeah, so while creating a course for education emergencies, the people we work, they experience the situation. And also we designed a non-credit refugee education specialization course with the Child Education International. So this course will be offered to people who want to specialize in refugee education. And this course will be offered through a professional learning platform of the Mary Fulton Teachers College. So yeah, and so far we submitted 2 big grants. One of the ideas is at least educate 600 teachers all around from the US who work with the refugees to support better refugees in the classroom. We published many manuscripts so far in different journals. And also with another LFC, Education for Climate Refugees, we submitted a proposal to host CIS, Southwest Regional Conference for fall 2025. So yeah, it's the first thing that we have done so far. And what we are going to our future plans, I want to talk a little bit about them. But before that, I want to introduce our members. We have Jill Koyoma, Iveta Slova, Amy Marcos, Eugene Judson, General White Taylor is from the scholars from our group. We have 2 doctoral students, Nasir and me. And also we have Pam Largi from Edgemani team of the ASU. And also we have Shaira Doan Gonzalez, sorry, Shaira, I forgot you. And we have some collaborators outside of the ASU. One of them is Childhood Education International. And yeah.
An incredible network.
Yeah.
And think about how you brought people together. And not that this needs to be a measure of success, but just the sheer quantitative productivity is super impressive. But beyond that, it's the breadth. For me, what strikes me is the breadth of what you focused on, from learning across multiple spaces toward more traditional scholarly activities, and then developing new ideas.
Yes.
And so I did, and you may have planned to get to this, but would you mind also sharing your latest grant? Because you have a new grant that you all got as well.
Yeah. Okay, I will talk about that next.
Yeah.
So we were creating a landscape and a networking map who we don't want to focus on ASU or not, but the Arizona who work with the refugees and what they offer. So sources for the refugees, what they can access. And also our plan is increasing our visibility. And we want to do something with the professional learning, offering 9 credit courses. And also we have another idea to use our game to offer to the professional learning because we want to have a different version of the game. I will talk about the game. We want to have different version of the game, maybe one game for the high school students. Then high school students can play and think about the complexity of refugee education. And also we want to offer some the free workshop and training of trainers for the educators. So how to play with the game. And so yeah, the other thing is we want to focus more on challenge game. So I want to a little bit interested in the challenge game. Can you go to the next one?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So this is created Underlearn. Is it initiatives it's a scholarly activity, but also is as a creative activity to support a scholar activity. Also, it's a scholar activity supports the creative activity. So it's both way. So yeah, recently, so this game first founded by the Learn. So thank you, Jill and Shaila. It's to designing and the printing process was we did with the Learn. But so we got just a new grant from the Educational Principal Innovation of ASU. They will support $8,000 to us to create the AI version of the game. So the first I will talk about like the traditional method. So the game is, the idea is engage participants like educators, policymakers, advocates, students to understand the complexities of refugee education. So the game is designed to foster justice and focus decision-making in educational in policies which impact refugees. We go to the next one. I don't want to forget anything.
So one of the things is your transitioning slide. Something that struck me when I was talking, Adnan and I met the other day, and I was getting my head around the game. Is this? I think this really porous division, and I'm not seeing it as very binary at all between scholarly activity and creative activity. And I know Betty, like I'm seeing you nodding because I know your work decently well. But of course not like you do.
Yeah.
But gaming is not my space. But something, for example, with this particular piece and what we'll all see in a minute is that what Adnan and folks have distilled into the game is an enormous amount of information that you have reviewed and really, gathered and garnered based on your review of the literature and what the scholarship that has come before. So we're looking at, game pieces, which we're starting to see up on this slide. But when we're seeing options and different areas of policy, it's representing some of our most advanced thinking around policymaking and refugee education. There are no citations on these slides or on these cards and these things, but this is a scholarly activity. And so one of the things I'd like us to be thinking about is how these distinctions may or may not be helpful in really telling the whole story around scholarship. So I did want to give the opportunity just for a comment or a response from anyone here who may, be part of this conversation. And then we'll get into the actual game.
I can like little bit about. Yeah. Like as Kathleen said, this game is a literature review. So when we had the webinar series, we realized that people talk about what is offered to refugees and what should be offered to refugees, But we realized that only people who work with refugees are aware of these policies and situation. So the idea came from, we need to create a tool to over people who do not have any idea about refugee education, how was the complexities and dynamics embedded in the refugee education. So this whole idea. So then I was thinking about my master thesis because I had a big literature review about refugee education. And I was thinking, maybe we can start from this point. So it's from how the half of the literature came from my master thesis, and another one came from my comprehensive exam. So it's a little bit we reduce we have more the sentences and the options are from the scholars who what they offer to integrate refugees to host communities. So it's it's about literature review at the same time the suggestion of scholars from the field. Yeah, we don't have citation because we don't so if you have citation, we really make harder for the
Yeah. No, I wasn't trying. Yeah, not suggesting we change the game, but it does make me think could this be a dissertation? Could the game be the dissertation, for example?
I will offer to my
but there's just ways I think being in this space that is so focused on innovation and the breadth of perspectives, I do think there are potentials for really being on the forefront of some of these kinds of formats and conversations. So with that, I want to give you the mic back and situate us in the game.
Okay. Yeah. So should I start with the goals or
Sure. Why don't you do that?
Yeah.
Whatever works for you.
Okay. I think so. I will go we have some goals create and raise awareness about refugee education. Provide a tool for promoting critical thinking. And also we want to use that as a research tool, the collected data, because we have some a notepad which will collect the data from the participants about their policy choices. and you have information about that, then you want to like use like as a data and write about that. And also we want to usually like, provide a training program for people who do not have an idea about refugee education. And also we want to use like an activism and advocacy tool. So these are like idea to use of the game. So game has like the 5 different, can we go to the next one, please? Okay, so this is the game. So the game starts with a hypothetical scenario. So we created a hypothetical country, which you will find something in common with your like where are you from, and so we have the game starts with the Republic of the Bean. So in this game, participants play a role. They are representative or assembly members or like parliamenters, Republic of the Bean. So in the game, first they make them familiarize with where's the Republic of the Bean. There's some like information in this Republic of the Bean, and they need to memorize or they need to remember. So then we give them some policy cards. We have like here. So the game is played with the 5 participants. We have 5 participants. They play with that. And we have 7 different policy packages. These are access to education, curriculum adaptation, language instruction, teacher education, psychological support, certification of the previous educational experience, and financial support. So for each policy packages, participants has the 3 options. Option 1, option 2, and option 3. They need to make a choice from 1, 2, or 3. So as like the idea of the game, one option is the most inclusive, one is exclusive. So it's like there's a priority. And as we know, if we play with the educators, all of us will choose the most inclusive one. But at this point, to push like participant to discussion, we have a budget limit. So each option has a different cost of the budget. So participants has like a 14 unit as a budget. So they have to like stay in this budget. So they need to manage their budget. So the idea of the game to push participants to talk, to think about budget or inclusive, like inclusive of the refugee education policies. So this situation push them to think about like the balance between the budget and like inclusive of education. First, they make their choices individually. They have 20 minutes. Then we have like a big group discussion, like as an example. So the most important thing for us is like the discussion as a group. So so then we collect data from them. So how do they justify their decisions and why they make a choice over like one choice over the other choices, and how do they negotiate with the other participants their choices, because as a group they need to have a policy reform package for the whole Republic of the Bean. So this process so we focus on like their conversation and we collect data from them. So then we can use it like a research tool.
Right.
So this is like the whole idea of the game.
So I'm going to pause for a minute. There's a couple things I'd like to highlight, and then I'd like to open it to the group for any questions before we dig in further. So the first is that Adnan had mentioned there are 7 policy packages, and you mentioned them, rather quickly, but we're going to get into some of them in a minute. One being curriculum adaptation, another being teacher training or teacher preparation, for example, 2 of the 7. And that represents this systematic coding and thematizing of the existing literature in refugee and immigrant education. And in also the process of designing the game design, and that's something I know absolutely nothing about. You also had to make some choices in terms of how big or small, how overwhelming this may be. Would you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. Yeah, so when first I reviewed the literature and I focused on most common themes in refugee education literature. So I came up with the 9 ideas. I found like nine ideas, like which is most common and discussed in the literature review. So I wrote a game, the design of the game, and I went to Dr. Carlos Casanova, and because he has experience with the use alternative tools to collect the data. And he told me, no, you can't. So if you took the 9 ideas to participants, they will not remember anything about the game because 9 choices are a lot to push participants play with the game and remember all dynamics and make connection. So you need to reduce them then 5. So then I went to home and I started thinking about what can I eliminate from the game. But then I said, okay, if I reduce to 5, it will be like there will be some deficit points in the refugee education ecosystem. Because like many things, so yes, 9 is a lot, but 5 is too less. So that we end up with a 7. And I removed 2 policy packages. The one is about the defining refugees. So because like it was about who will be recognized as a refugee immigrant, because like this recognition give opportunity to access education. And the other one I tried to remember, like the defining refugees. Sorry, I didn't remember that.
Well, I know I'm thinking too, as you start to collect more data and people are actually playing this game more and more, you may also moving forward have other ways of organizing these themes as well. But I appreciate.
Sorry. So like we will have like the AI chatbot like for the game. So with this funding, we will use like we have like a AI chatbot. Participants will play with the real world scenarios. We will not have a public opinion like maybe US, like a crisis after the hurricane, or maybe Turkey, like a refugee influx crisis, or maybe like after the earthquake in like the South Asia. So people with like real world scenarios, they will still have like a limited budget. So in the chatbot, they will have like multiple, more than 3 options, and they will still have like a limited budget. So when they make a choices in left side of the chatbot, they will see the how these choices affect the integration process of like displaced people. They will see that at the same time. And also they will see the effect of policy on the quality of life of displaced people. So for example, as some policies, the integrations process will go up, but at the same time, the quality of life like will go down. Because like always we believe that the integration will affect the quality of life like the positively, but it can affect it negatively. So in the chatbot, they will see the like real impact of the policies, how the people are affected by these policy choices. Yeah, so it's our idea for the chatbot. So yeah, so we'll try to do that. We'll start like in December to create the content. Hopefully we'll have the chatbot by May 2025.
Wow, great, thank you. So I'd like to open it up to just reflections that people may be having so far about the content, the format, the kind of iterative, like planful and then iterative design moving forward. The only thing that I'm not able to do from where I'm sitting is see if there's anything in the chat. So if anyone would mind, if someone does put something in the chat, if anyone would volunteer to chime in and read that would be great. I think
I just commented in the chat that I'm really impressed, Adnan, by the research that went into this to, design the game. I think that really adds weight to the argument that this is a scholarly kind of project. I mean, you didn't just make it up for the game elements. So yeah, I was curious, were there any other games that you used as inspiration for this particular game or the format?
Like for the format, yes. Before coming to the US, I was working for like many NGOs in Turkey. We had like a game that like the participants played together for like the youth social rights, but it was like a group game. It wasn't about like the policies. It's mostly about like how youth can access the social rights, and it was like the game. but it's like as a group to game, people play together, they support each other. It was like for the fun, but this game is like to be honest, I know there's a lot of policy games, like some like the online version of them, but I don't know, maybe like the.
Right. No, that's helpful. Yeah. I mean, I know there's a variety of kinds of, some people call these games for social change, games that have a, an advocacy sort of mission. And I was just curious about the extent to which you were aware of those or use those as a starting point for this. So thanks. I think this is a great example, and I'm actually really eager to see how the gameplay works out.
So let's get into it. Let's get into it so we can see. I'm sure people have scanned what Adnan prepared on a slide in terms of the context for the Republic of Benin. And you highlighted the connections that all of us should be able to see in some aspects of this scenario. It's very much a synthesis ripped from the headlines in real life, right? And then the rules that exist. So thanks for going over those with us, Adnan. I'm going to advance to the next slide here. So what we've done is, what Adnan has done, and we chatted about doing, was putting two of the policy packages up. So will you say, before we get into the details, will you say maybe 30 seconds to a minute about each of these policy packages? What do they mean? Why did you select these, and describe what they are?
Oh, yeah. So we have 7 packages, and so the 7 packages that are the most discussed topic in the refugee education ecosystems. And so we, like, with Dr. Casanova support, I choose them because I didn't want to leave any blank or flu areas in refugee education. And also we would like to have them because they are connected together. So if you like to remove one of them, there will be, so the whole package will be disconnected. So we want to have like a comprehensive and holistic, like the policy packages. So some of them support each other, some of them, so they cannot replace each other, but they support each other, and they give an opportunity to participants to see different effect of the policies.
Yeah.
That's my main idea for that. And I said it wrote to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have now demonstration here. First, I will play with Kathleen here, and also please, you need to choose one option from each of them. So you will have only 4 units as a budget limit. So you need to choose, you have 4. So option 1 will cost you 1, option 2 will cost you 2, and option 3 will cost you 3. So, okay, so you will choose 2 of them. So another rule of the game, you cannot choose all options from the same option. For example, you cannot choose like only option 1 or only option 2 or only option 3. I know some participants try to make the easier the process. They all of them choose either option 1 or option 2, to get to like the skip the discussion with the participants. But at this point, so you cannot do that. So you have 4 units as a budget limit. Option 1 will cost you 1. Option 2 costs 2. Option 3 will cost 3, sorry. And so you have 2 minutes to read these policy packages. And as you see, there's like thumbs up and thumbs down. So to see what will be the possible effect of the refugee packages. Yeah, we have 2 minutes. Yeah.
So obviously we have, 4 units, 4 units to spend, if you will. So in this instance, I wouldn't be able to choose 2 and 2, but in the game, because there are 7 packages, I might be able to pick a few 2s, or a few 1s and 3s. Okay, so we're on teacher training. So teacher preparation, and this is both pre-service and in-service educator training. Okay, so one is providing minimal or no, so kind of throw it to the wind. Hope you've got people who know some things and have some kind hearts who are up on current events, who have networks that are broader, so it's sort of leaving things to chance. We all know
Yeah.
what that can do, but a lot of times it's what we do
Yeah.
in education, especially when we don't have resources, including training itself. The second is offering basic training sessions, basic training for teachers to kind of just the awareness building side of things. It's foundational, but it's certainly not gonna well equip educators. The third is comprehensive training programs. So this is intensive, ongoing, in-depth across probably a number of domains of teaching, what it means to be a teacher in terms of facilitating environments, curriculum, supporting students' health and well-being,
Yeah.
communicating with families, all sorts of things here. Okay. Well, it's so hard, right? Because with my own personal work around students with disabilities at multiple intersections, including national origin and documentation status and immigration and refugee status, of course I want to go to 3. And I also know that to go into this level of depth
Yeah.
with in the midst of and with everything else, including sociopolitical environments, that this becomes really challenging. And so I'm thinking about whether this would even be something that I would be able to get across the finish line, like as someone who's making a policy or as a leader in an educational setting. And so this is where I want to go, but I'm also trying to be as realistic, knowing what I know about sociopolitical context and what's happening in schools. So that's where I'm not going to do option 1. Right now, that's where I am. Okay. So I'm between 2 and 3. But what I'm going to do is I want to go over to curriculum adaptation. I got 4 units.
Yes.
Okay.
But remember.
Yeah. Help me out. What I
Yeah. So the thing is, it's like most participants do. They think about their own state, their own country, but they're the Republic of the Bean. So do you play this game for the Republic of the Bean, not for the United States or like Turkey or another country? So this is important.
I got to be a better beaner. I need to know more. So I've read this, of course, but okay. All right.
So it's
So we have free. Yes. Thank you for that, because it's a different socio-political environment than the one we have in
it gives you some
here.
context about like social political context of the
Yes.
country. And no.
Yes. Great. Okay. So. Okay. But we do have some issues around xenophobia and political debates and polarization. Yeah. Okay, so I'll keep that in mind, and thank you. A novice mistake here. All right, then curriculum adaptation. So I have maintaining the existing national curriculum without modifications. Okay. Adapting to include diverse perspectives. Oh, wait, I went out of order. Introducing supplementary materials while still following the mainstream curriculum and adapting the national curriculum to include diverse perspectives, histories, and culture. Wow. Okay, so this starts to change my thinking process. And I have 4 units. Okay, so I'm gonna, for the interest of time and to not be like overly, to nerd out too far on this right now, I'm gonna actually totally change my tune.
Okay. What will be your choices?
Okay, my choice is,
You have 4.
yeah, I have 4 units. My choice is option 1, what I said I wasn't gonna do
Teacher training.
for teacher training. That's nothing.
Mhm.
My choice on curriculum adaptation is option 3,
Okay.
which is adapting the national curriculum to include diverse perspectives, history, and culture elements relevant to both citizens. And my rationale for that, which you may imagine, you can like feel inside my brain folds, has to do with thinking about the highest leverage point to support teacher learning related to immigrant and refugee perspectives, experiences, and I'm hoping that there's a way to integrate that within the curriculum. And in learning and engaging the curriculum, that educators will be able to access the aspects that aren't addressed through the teacher training packet
Yeah,
in particular.
great.
So
Thank you for coming.
that's it. That's what I got for you.
Any of you want to share their
Definitely want to hear
choices,
from you and how you all thought this through.
your justifications?
Or even some of the like waffling you may have been doing as you were grappling with different options. Oh yeah, and Adnan's looking at the chat. Yeah, and Betty too, if you wouldn't mind. I'm sorry, I don't have arms quite long enough.
So I would just say it was really interesting to hear your rationale, Kathleen, because I mean, at first I was just like 2 and 2, middle of the road. But then I was thinking, oh, well, teacher training is more important because if the teachers are trained well, they could, I don't know, I guess make their own adaptations and, kind of work around the limitations of the curriculum. But I totally get the logic of your choice, which was the opposite. So that's totally fascinating to me. Yeah, I mean, Adnan, is there any evidence to support one or the other more so? I mean, curriculum or teacher training? I mean, how would we know? Yeah.
So the thing is like, so I play with the participants, so they cluster like the 7 packages. For example, they focus teacher training, curriculum adaptation, and language instruction together. Because they say, okay, for example, if you choose like the curriculum adaptation, like option 3, and the most inclusive one, but what if the teacher cannot speak the language of the refugees? Like, so how are you going to support these them? Or for example, you choose the curriculum adaptation, the most inclusive one, but at the same time, you have for example, only English policy in the classroom. So how do refugees will understand? Because still the always is like the barriers.
Yeah.
So they try to combine them together. Or the other thing is we have a financial support and recognizing previous educational experience of refugees. So for example, in the discussion, they said, okay, if we recognize the previous refugees' previous educational experience, it means that they can find a job, and also it will reduce their dependence of the financial support. They choose, for example, number 3 for the certification process, but they choose number 1. They combine them together. And the other one is about for example, about psychological support. They choose number 3. They believe that so they said, okay, access to education, number 3, because they say that education is a process of the healing and is the most common way to support refugees. So if you open school to all refugees, it means that you don't need to spend extra money for the psychological support. So they combine them together. Yeah. So it's some discussion. For this one, it's only 2. But if you have another choices the language of instruction, you can combine them together. They maybe in the paper they work well, but most important is about how to justify them. Can we go to the next slide?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for the questions and thoughts, Betty.
Yeah. So at the end of the game, I had the instruction is a natural person during the whole process. Introduce the game rules. And then goes silence, participants play, but then come up with some reflection question. So these reflection questions are our data, exactly like workshop, or the case study. So we ask questions to the participants of how they justify the packages, how the policies work well. So do they address specific needs of refugees? Or are there any policy packages in your policy? They work together, or support each other, or strengthen each other, and also So how do they serve for a holistic and comprehensive refugee education policy package? So we have some reflection question for them. So far on our list we have 15 questions, but we don't answer all of them. Because some discussions during the discussion, participants sometimes give you what you need, what you want to hear from them, and you don't have some question. And also some discussion, like instruction, take notes, and so then you can ask some question. In one of my recent workshop, one participant said that like citizens must be prioritized and they must receive public services first, then refugees need to. If there's some money we left, they can receive the public services.
Mm.
So the whole discussion was around that. So like, why did you choose like this word choice? So why do you put like a difference between like so do you create like hierarchy between like the people because of like the citizenship status, you know? And also there was another like the discussion for like the curriculum adaptation. One of the participants says like being a refugee doesn't mean you will stay in this country for forever. You can, for example, one day you can decide to go back to your country, or you can choose to resettlement to another country, you know, so you need to be prepared for like both options. So education should support refugees for both options. So that's why they he chose the option 3 for the most inclusive one to prepare refugees for like the either back to country or for the resettlement. So there's some like many dynamics like depends on the group or the discussion. Next one.
Sure.
I think we should be done.
All right, so with the 10 minutes we have left, there are a few things I'd like to just touch on briefly and ask some questions. Based on now you're engaging the game with lots of different folks. One of the things that we would like to do and continue to do, including and beyond the just an hour opportunities, are to come together around the various ways that the LFCs are generating and artifacts and leaving evidence of the collaborative and important work you're doing together. And so that is something that we'll be inviting people to come face to face over some food and and time together to play this game and to interact around this game, to engage in this game. So I'm wondering a little bit about a research study or some ideas that you're having as you're starting to collect different forms of data to be relevant to engage those most impacted by refugee education. So we're spending a lot of time, we're talking about policymakers, decision makers. You talked about students, for example. So as you're working on this and you're thinking those most impacted, who benefit from and who do not benefit from the current state of refugee and immigrant refugee education, what are some of the questions that you have emerging for how we could design a study around that or engaging refugee students?
Yeah, refugee student. So the first thing is like so when I created a game, I was working with some Syrian refugees, and so they gave me some feedbacks. Before moving to US, I was working with them. We co-founded an association in Turkey. We work together now. They have some feedback for me before the creating game. But then, so I believe that when I play with the refugees themselves from all around the world, they will have some feedbacks about that. Because like some policy packages can work for the Middle East, but they cannot work for like for example, Europe or like United States of America. So I believe that it will change the dynamic in the game. So maybe in the future, I will have like another version of the game, like maybe depends on the region. And also like for the resource side, the first thing I want to see about the game, how the players affect like people choices and like people engage with the game. I want to take the game to like the festivals, to like maybe to conferences, to different activities, organizations. And I want to play with the game, with the people in these spaces. And I want to see how these spaces affect people choices. What's the meaning of the game in a festival versus what's the meaning of the game in academic conferences. How do people engage? How do they discuss, and how they approach the game, and how it affect the game dynamics. So I think my next step is about space, how the space affect people engagement with the game.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And one of the things I wanted to kind of evoke and pull out there is that the planning of this game was informed very much by people who are refugees.
Yes, absolutely.
And so you're looking at literature, right? You're looking at the scholarly literature, excuse me, and you're also going to people who have lived the experience across different contexts to inform what's important. And so one of the other things that I am really impressed by the LFCs regarding has to do with the relevance. The relevance of not just the overall topics, but the relevance of the kinds of questions that are being asked and explored together. A lot of times in the academy, we ask questions that may matter to a small group of people.
Yeah.
But one of the important things that I'm hearing and seeing from this process is that you are asking questions and generating knowledge about things that matter to those who have been most impacted by the issue that you're aiming to address. And I think it's so central to this, Adnan. It's an exemplary piece of scholarship and creative activity. I'm super excited. And so one of the other things is we come together around the LFCs, but more broadly, and something that I've noticed a lot so far is how people are being stewards for other people's work. And so encourage, and then we have incredible, doctoral candidate here who's already developed this immense body of work coming from Turkey, engaging with people across multinational, global contexts. Here you are doing this work. So how we can be stewards for, making people aware of the work that you're doing. So a few things, there's the game. Right now it's the printed copies of the game. This is the sealed version. We have this one. I really want to encourage people to come, but also to share about Adnan's work when you're in conversations, So Adnan, there's this PowerPoint presentation that you have that has some sample material. So is this something people would be able to access in some way, shape, or form, a little bit an information about the game, or is there somewhere you'd like them to go to be able to do that?
Yeah, I have one flyer, and I can share with people if they want. It is about the basic of the game. It includes because of I think LFC website, we have only one page. We don't have sub pages.
Yes.
We haven't created sub pages for the game, but the flyer includes my contact information.
Okay.
If they need, I will be more than happy to share with you. And if you send someone, we appreciate it. And last thing, the game we'll have a recorded video for the game on the professional learning. I think it was, I don't remember the exact name. The professional learning at the website of the Teachers College, and people will be able to train themselves about the game, and also they will be able to purchase the game. We will use the revenue to improve the game, to create a different version of the game. Yeah. Is our goal now.
That's great. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Maddie, to having me here.
Yeah, that's super exciting. The last thing I want to make sure to kind of close with the question, because it's also about application and relevance for everyone who's chosen to come today. And so I would ask if you're able to, or if you have some ideas sparking, if there are ways that you can make a personal connection to what Adnan has shared with us today, whether that has to do with the form of scholarship that this is, whether it has to do with who you're engaging in a research design or a scholarly activity design project, whether it has to do with the way you think about what's relevant in the research or the collaborative activities that you're engaging, whether it has to do with the format, the literal format of the game itself. So if, to the extent that people are able to do that, would anyone be willing to share some personal connections there?
So I don't know if this is connected or not, but with one of my students last night in early childhood, she was saying that her current job is caring for children who are in that waiting for their parents' legal status to be cleared up. And so she's working with these early childhood children. And I mean, I had no idea that this was even a job around here, but that's what she's doing. So I think that's interesting. And I was wondering, is there any aspects of early childhood that you've considered?
Aspects of early childhood that you consider? We say just a little bit more around like an example aspect that you might offer as relevant to this conversation.
I'm gonna have to think about that.
Yeah, for one of the so when you play a game with one of the participants, they asked us why we don't have like high school student version, for that. Maybe we can think about for early ages, and the game, by the way, created for they did as a holistic education approach. It's not for only K-12. It's all about the whole education, refugee education policy.
Yeah. Sure, and across different ages.
Yeah.
And
Maybe with the younger kids, it might be more of an issue of like care and education, care for children in this situation. I don't know.
Thank you. Anyone like to close us out on that note? I know you're making lots of connections. I know we're just about at time.
Yeah, I was going to just say, since we have 1 minute, I just wanted to close by thanking Kathleen and Adnan. This was a fabulous session. It's raised a lot of questions and connections for me, maybe more so since I have a background in game-based learning, but I'm really excited about the possibility of doing a face-to-face session next semester. I think to give people the actual experience of playing the game, which I've found is really compelling. And so I'm going to encourage everyone to look out for some announcement of that as we get towards planning that. And at that point too, Adnan, I'd like to hear more about, since we don't have time now, your future goals and how this experience has maybe shaped how you see yourself as a scholar and academic and what you hope to do next in your career. But with that, since we're right at 1, we try to end on time. So thanks to all of you who attended. We're not having just an hour next week due to Thanksgiving break, but we will have our final just an hour in 2 weeks. And the topic for the final just an hour will move back to issues in teaching. Meredith Toth and Derek Thurber will lead that. So look for an announcement of the specific topic when we get back from break. So thanks again, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, and look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.
Great to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, be well, everyone.